if you are running multiple marketing campaigns across multiple different channels and you're struggling to keep track of everything, maybe you're using Google Sheets, Asana, or just writing stuff down, then this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through everything I know about tracking marketing campaigns, also tracking the tasks associated with campaigns, and also the results, both while they're live and once they are finished. Now, we're going to be using a platform called Monday.com. If you've not heard of it before, just give it a Google. I'll walk you through it in a moment's time anyway. But if you would like us to help you with any of this, check out the links below. We'd be delighted to support. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of our example Monday.com system. Now, if you've not heard of Monday.com, just Google it. Or just Google Monday.com pricing. You need the professional version of work management. You can do a 2-week free trial. There is a link in the description, but by no means feel obliged to use it. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to walk you through how I would set up both the marketing campaigns results and also the tasks associated with those campaigns inside of Monday.com. So I'm going to go ahead and firstly, once you've logged in, I'm guessing, right, I'll press the plus button in the top left-hand corner here, and then we want to go ahead and create a new board. Now, this board is going to be super simple. It's just going to be our campaigns board. The privacy options, we can select whether we want it to be main. So this means it's accessible to anyone. Private, so only you and select individuals can have access to this board, and then shareable, so if you want to share it externally, you're more than welcome to, but I'm just going to leave it as main for the time being. The next thing we need to select is what we're managing in this board. Now, ultimately we're managing campaigns, but if you want to give it another name, you can do. You customize it as well if you're feeling fancy, and then we're going to go ahead and press create board. Cool. So while this board, we'll just wait for the board to load. It shouldn't take a moment. Or maybe it will. And there you go. So our campaigns board has now loaded. Now, obviously, this is very rudimentary. It looks very basic to start with. So we're just going to run through a series of things to bring it up to speed, and then we can customize it, or you can customize it as you see fit. But the first thing that we're going to want to do is manage the process of a campaign. So typically, a campaign becomes new. So it's, let's say, a concept idea, and then it goes into pending approval or approved. And then once it's approved, it's upcoming. And then once it's upcoming, it's active. And then once it's active, it's either completed, or I guess it could be cancelled at any stage of the previous process steps, right? So that's what we're going to account for by using the groupings. So we've got new campaigns. Now, these could be ideas from other members of your team. It could be your own ideas, and you just write them as new campaigns. So then we've got approved campaigns, and these are obviously the campaigns that have got past the HR department to ensure that you're not upsetting anyone. And then we've gone from approved campaigns to upcoming campaigns. Now, of course, upcoming is when they're actually scheduled, but we've got upcoming campaigns. Now, in the approved stage, once they're approved, that's where you would do all of your planning, make sure the tasks associated with those campaigns are being completed. You can then set it as upcoming. I mean, you could transition over between the two if you wanted to. And then we would have active campaigns. So active campaigns, and these are ones that are literally live at any given time. And then we would have completed campaigns. So these ones are finished, obviously, campaigns. And then we might have cancelled/postponed campaigns. So cancelled/postponed campaigns. This is where you put the campaigns where the HR department decide that you are upsetting people and you can't post anything that you were planning on posting. So we've got new, approved, upcoming, active, completed, and then cancelled. Pretty self-explanatory, right? So then what we need to do is make sure that the status columns match the groupings. And the reason we do this is for reporting purposes that later down the line. How much reporting we actually end up doing on the campaigns, yet to be determined, but probably worth having, or it's just best practice within Monday.com anyway. So we're going to click into our status column. We're going to edit the labels, and then the labels just need to match. So we've got new, and we'll add then approved. Oh, what's going on? Monday always has this drama with the status column. All I do is hit refresh, and then it sorts itself out. We've got approved. We then have, I'll leave that one for active campaigns. We've then got completed. We then have up the top here, we've got cancelled/postponed. And then we have, what am I missing? Upcoming. That's the one. Upcoming campaigns. You can reposition them on the left-hand side here. It's got new, and then cancelled is going to sit down the bottom. New, approved, upcoming, active, completed, cancelled. You can easily change the colours as well. So approved was actually purple, and then the upcoming one was this light green here. So new, approved, upcoming, active, and completed. Press apply. Now, I'm just going to hide the column summary on... Oh, just press hide the column summary, not save column as a template. And then what we want to do is we just want to create a basic automation recipe for each of the different stages that says when status changes to active, it moves to the group active. Okay, so we'll just go to automate in the top right hand corner, go to manage, and then press create automation in the top right hand corner again. And then we're clicking in, and then saying when status column changes to new, then move item to group new. Okay, it's really self-explanatory. This is our trigger at the top here, and then we've got an action. We can have also multiple actions, and I'll come on to that later on in the video. So we'll go ahead and press create automation. Now you're going to have the joy of sitting through this with me as I go through each of those. So we go approved and then move item to group, approved, create automation, and we will continue as we work through. Once you've done this a few times, you'll never forget it. It literally becomes second nature. Press create automation. And then we've got create automation again when the status column changes to active, move item to group. Active, create automation. And then create automation again. Status changes to completed, then move item to group completed. And then we have when the status changes to cancelled, status change. It would be nice if this was automatic, you know, that would be, yeah, if we could just say AI maybe work this out, which I'm sure it probably could, be a lot quicker than me. So there we go. We've set up all of our automations now. So if I change this to upcoming, I change this to approved, and I change this one to cancelled / postponed, you can see how they move to the respective groups automatically, which is really nice. The next thing that we're going to want to do, which is again just basic housekeeping, is this date column here. So this date column, what I want you to do is just click into it and change it to date created. Now, most of you, if not all of you, will have auto populate one date column when you create a new board. So this is going to be our date created. Now, the reason we do this is again for reporting purposes. But what we want to do is we want to go to automate again, top right hand corner, create a new automation. This is just as simple. It's when an item is created, then set the date created to today. So what we're saying is when a new item is created, we just want the date column to automatically populate with the today's date. So then we know which day this particular campaign was created. What's really helpful about this is we can begin to track the time in which it takes from a new campaign that was created to, let's say, getting it active, for example. So what we're also going to add is another date column. We'll go date, and this is going to be date completed / cancelled. Okay, and then we're going to hide the column summary. So settings, hide column summary, restrict the column editing, and then we're just going to click into the existing automations we have, and then we're going to find when status changes to completed, and we're going to create another action on here, and it's going to be set date, and then it's going to be date completed / cancelled. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing for where it gets changed to cancelled / postponed. We're going to set date to completed / cancelled, and press create automation. Cool. And then what you could do as well is you could have another date column where it's date active. Let's actually do that. So let's add another date column. It's called date active. And this just tracks the day in which the status is changed to active. We'll hide the column summary. Again, we'll restrict the column editing. So this is going to be an automatic thing. Go to automate, and then we'll go click into this and press set date. Set date to, and then it's date active to today, create automation. So now we're saying that when the date is equal to active, or when the status changes to active, then the date active automatically populates. And then also when the status is changed to, so you can see that's populated, completed, then it also sets the date completed to today as well. So now we can track the time at which it takes from the date created to date active, and then the time in which it takes from the date being created to the date completed. Now this is really helpful information to know, right? Because if you have, and this is an example I gave someone else a couple of days ago, let's say a December marketing campaign, and you don't know the amount of time it takes to go from a new campaign to an active campaign as an average across your entire organization, then you might massively misjudge the amount of time you need preparation wise to be ready, and you end up going live for a December campaign the 3rd week into December and miss a load of, you know, sales opportunities, conversions, engagement, whatever your campaign goal is. But by knowing this information, let's say you've got an average between date created and date active on the amount of days it takes to go live with a campaign, then you can accurately predict, right, well, it's going to take 40 days, so let's start preparing this campaign now just to be safe, and then we'll make sure that it's going to be ready for December. So stuff like that to take into consideration. So in order to do that, we'd add a column. So we'd add a formula, add a formula column. What we want to do is we just want to go to our AI assistant here. It's a lot easier than doing it yourself, and just say, give me the difference between date created and date active, and just hit enter. This should then populate automatically, which it has. So we could call this TTA, which is time to active. Hit enter. Again, we just want to hide the column summary on here, and then we'll just restrict the column editing, so we don't want people messing with our formula column. And then we'll add another formula column. How necessary this one is, again, entirely up to you, but I'm just doing it for housekeeping, making sure I'm covering all bases. We'll go, give me the difference between date created and date completed / cancelled, I guess. Cancelled. Hit enter. Cool. So now that will populate, insert, and then set formula, and then this is going to be TTC, so time to complete. And then we will hide the column summary, and we will restrict the column editing, and then we can just make these really small. They don't matter so much on an individual basis. It's just better for averages, helpful for reporting, etc., etc. Cool. So now we've got like what I would call the skeleton of our campaigns board set up, and you can see how we've made a lot of difference already between where we started and where we want to go. The next thing we need to take into consideration is what data do we need to track on the actual campaigns board itself. So for instance, there's some basic stuff that I'm just going to recommend. So if we press the plus button on the right hand side, we'd have, let's say, a drop down menu, and these are going to be channels. So these are the channels that we're posting to for this particular campaign. So I can just move this across, and then let's just say Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I'm trying to think what else, X, I don't know, Reddit, I don't know. Right, these are the channels. This is where the media is being posted to for this particular campaign. You can see here that, let's say this one is just a Facebook campaign. I could have both Facebook and Instagram, so I guess just Meta for this one. And then this one, we're just doing YouTube, right? So that's how you would manage this. This is obviously useful for reporting purposes. I press the 3-dotted button and hide the column summary just to keep the mess away at the bottom here. And this is quite easy to manage as well. And then what we probably also want to delineate between is whether this particular channel is a paid channel campaign, whether this particular campaign is a paid campaign, an organic campaign, or often both. So we press add column. I would use a status column in this instance, drag it across, and then I would say campaign type, let's say, or media type. Yeah, this probably makes more sense. Again, you're more than welcome to correct my terminology as you see fit. But let's say we do red is paid, orange is organic, and then let's go blue both, and then we can delete the green label and then reposition accordingly. Again, just FYI, don't use the default label because that assumes that there is a default every time you create a new campaign. Just to give you an example, I'm just going to put example, and then all of them are equal to example unless otherwise selected, which makes no sense for what we're trying to do here. So just press apply, and then we can hide that column summary. What we'd probably also want to have is things like a project description. So that'd be like a long text column, if I can spell correctly. There we go. So go long text. I'll just reposition this across, and then we'll call this campaign description. Another thing we'll probably want to have for our campaigns is add another status column, and this might be campaign goal. So we call this goal, and then different marketing campaigns have different goals. Now, I would always just assume that people want to do conversion, so they want to, but that I guess is like bottom of the funnel. Also, if you're a larger organization watching this, engagements, impressions, they also do matter. So you can set your own goals here, but I'm just going to do engagement. So I guess that's people interacting with the brand. Impressions, so that's just the number of times people have seen the brand. And then we've got conversions as well. So we've got different goal metrics on our campaign level here. I just delete anything that's not necessary. And obviously you can add other stuff. Like I've already mentioned, it's entirely up to you what you want to add. So we would have, let's say our goal for this particular campaign, and I'm just going to call this campaign number 1, and then call it, I don't know, let's use our example earlier, December campaign. The status is approved. We're running across all different channels. The media type is both. We're going for conversions. And then what we can add is a numbers column. And then in this instance, let's just say, drag this across, goal number. So now I can say that, look, we want to get 100 conversions from this particular campaign. Now, you could also add further number columns, of course, and then we would have, like, let's say campaign budget, for example, budget, and then I don't know what we do, 3 dotted button, settings, customize this, just put it into the relevant currency. We'll hide the column summary, press hide column summary, just press not now on this. Let's say our campaign budget is 10,000. And then what we could also add, and this getting a little bit more interesting, let's put another numbers column, and then we could add, if I reposition this, our campaign. So we've got our goal number and then our campaign budget, and then we could have our, well, let's just say conversion number or goal. Yeah, goal number, I suppose, makes sense. I'm just trying to think what's going to be the best terminology for the actual return on investment, or goal revenue, no, or campaign predicted revenue, I don't know, revenue, yeah, let's go with that, sure. Well, I'm not going to drag this video out because I can't come up with a column name. Settings, customize numbers column, let's do # again, and then I'll hide the column summary. So now we've got our goal number, our expected revenue, and then we've got our budget as well. So let's say it's 10,000. And then we would be able to work out our return on investment. And we can actually do a formula column as well. So you go to, again, add column to the right, or just press the plus button, formula, and we call this campaign ROI. So if I just reposition this over, ROI, hit enter, and then hide the column summary. Or we call this is not the actual, this is expected ROI. So it's important to delineate between those two, and because later on in this video we're going to be tracking results, and then we don't want to get confused here. So it's going to be, how do we work this out? I guess it's goal number times campaign budget. Let's ask the AI assistant, because my brain is not really working. I have the goal number, the campaign budget, and then the campaign expected exp dot revenue, and I want to work out the return on investment from this campaign based on the campaign budget and the campaign exp.revenue. Let's see if the AI assistant is smart enough to do this one. Let's go. So if campaign budget is greater than 0, campaign revenue minus campaign budget divided by campaign budget divided by 0. Is that right? I don't know. Slow morning for me. Let's say if I change this to 9,000, 8. So that's a return on investment of 8. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's 11 would be 11,000. No, yeah, 11. 10. There you go. Yeah, that is exactly what we wanted it to be. So now we can go ahead and say, look, the goal number is 50. I don't think this matters so much. 500, and then let's say 1,000. So 1x return ROI. Yeah, that would do. Again, use the AI assistant, use ChatGPT. You can add different stuff to this. This might not be perfect. I'll hold my hands up and say that, but I just want to give you an idea as to what's possible. So I'm just trying to think what else there is to note on a campaign here. Well, actually saying that, there's a really obvious one or two things that I'm missing. One being the person column. So obviously I can assign someone to a campaign. So let's say I assigned everyone or each person, different people to a campaign. They're then responsible for delivering on that campaign. But the more obvious one is actually just the timeline column. So this is a timeline of the campaign. So we can go ahead and add this, drag this over to where we want to put it. And then this is the campaign timeline, right? Hit enter. So let's say that this campaign is going to go across here. And then this one is going to be, I don't know, this one to this. And then this one is going to be over to this one, right? You get the idea, yeah? So this is now upcoming. And then what we can do is we can run some automations as well. So we can say automate top right-hand corner, go to create automation and say when date arrives, and then we can say when on the day of, at the day of, or one day before or one day after, date being campaign timeline start date, then move item to group, or actually what we want to do is change the status to it would be active, and then the active, that when the status changes, that then triggers the moving to the group as well. So you can add stuff like this. I'm just going to add that, press create automation, and then we're going to do exactly the same again. So create automation top right hand corner, when status column changes to cancelled / no, sorry, not cancelled / postponed, we would do, what am I doing? We do when date arrives. Yeah, that's what I'm after. Sorry. When, and then campaign timeline end date arrives, then change status column status to completed, and then that will automatically move item to the group completed. I think it's because I'm so used to clicking in and just going when status changes to X, I defaulted to the usual there. So we've got our campaign timelines, and then what we can do is we can add a Gantt view. So press plus at the top here and then add a Gantt. And then this Gantt view will obviously allow us to see all of our different campaigns cascading over different timelines. What I would do is press the 3 dotted button, go to dock this widget just so it takes up the entire screen. And then we can hit the cog in the top right hand corner here. Now the timeline, obviously we want to have selected as the campaign timeline, not the date active, date created, date completed. So just make sure that the one date column is connected here. We can then group by, so we can group by the actual groups on the board. So we've got approved, upcoming. We can also group by the person, so who's responsible for it. We could also group by, let's say, the status. I think, well, groups and status would be the same. And then the different channels as well. So we can group by the different channels if we wanted to. In this particular instance, I'm just going to group by the status. I think it makes the most sense. And then I'm going to label it by, and this is literally just the label that will sit on the right-hand side of each of these lines here. So let's say I label it by the person that's responsible for it, or you could label it by the name of the campaign. You do have the name on the left-hand side here, so maybe the person makes more sense. Or you could do media type, both, for example, you can see, or maybe the goal number. Entirely up to you. Entirely up to you. I'll just select the person, and then color by as well. So we're grouping by the status. So we might choose to color by the person. And then what we can do is go to visual settings and just show the color legend. So we can see Alex, Nick, and Sakil here. We can show the weekends or not. We can show a today indication. We can show a group summary as well, which is quite cool. And then we've got critical path, which is to do with dependencies, fiscal year. So when your start month and start year for your financial year is. We've got baselines as well, so you can add snapshots. Again, this is more for project management than it would be for campaign management. And then we can hide and show different groups, but again, not necessary unless you want to remove the cancelled / postponed and completed campaigns. So any campaigns in either of those groups, which is determined by when you change the status column, they won't be visible on your Gantt view. But again, it's entirely up to you. I strongly recommend just testing this out as you so wish. But this is kind of the beginning of campaign management within Monday.com, right? So the next other thing I want to show you is a Kanban view. So if we go ahead and press the plus button, and then you've got a Kanban. Now, I would actually strongly recommend using the new Kanban view. So if we go to the cog top right-hand corner, go to customize, there might be an option on here if you're not already using the new Kanban view to use a new Kanban view. It seems pretty evident here that I actually am. And you can see these are different status options. It's quite easy to just drag and drop to our campaigns to the different stages. So it's quite nice. So let's say item 2, which if I click into this, the pencil, I can then change the name. So let's call this campaign number 2. This unfortunately got declined. Yeah, so you can move it across and then you can reposition as you so wish. So let's say this is new. If you go to the cog, you can go to, I'm just going to close this one, customize your Kanban card. You can decide which data points you want to show on your Kanban view, as you can see here. You can also reposition stuff and move stuff as well if you don't want them. So that's quite nice. You got, what else you got on here? You can show the battery, which is battery in the top right hand corner or not. This is the shown the new Kanban view. You can unselect it if you want the old one. I actually prefer the new one, which is a revelation. And you can show a column name, so you can see the column name on here if you want to. So the column name is the name of the column associated. And then if there are files uploaded to a campaign, you can display a cover image. Not that I would ever recommend doing this, but you can see it as an example. You can. Now, if I go back to my main table, that actually brings me on nicely 2 files. Now, you have a file column that's automatically populated when you create a new board. We've not actually touched it yet. I would never, ever, ever recommend uploading files directly to monday.com ever. Don't do it. All right. Just I know, bit extreme. Just link it from Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, wherever you usually handle your files or manage files. Just link it directly from there, or you can just have a link. But it's quite helpful if you're, let's say, click from Google Drive, you actually sign in, and then you can associate a campaign folder with the campaign. It then looks really nice and it's really easy. You just click into it and then it opens a new tab in your browser, and manage the campaign assets from there, or whatever else you need to do. So hopefully this is making sense. Of course, there are other things that are going to be pertinent or nuanced, let's say, to your business. So if you press plus add column, there's loads of additional stuff that you might want to add. Let's say priority, you can have multiple people assigned to a campaign. One could be the person that's responsible for delivering it. One could be the manager. You've got the numbers, the timeline, the date. We've got a short text column and a long text column. You can see you've got stuff like meeting notes and creative brief. You've got checkbox, links, item IDs, phone, location as well. We've already touched on files and things like that. Last updated auto number, progress tracking as well. This is just basic stuff. Again, just test it out. This is nice thing about monday.com is you can add stuff. If you don't like it, just delete it, remove it. You can't really get it wrong. We've already added drop downs, formulas, stuff like that. And there's no harm in just going through things, testing what you need, testing what you don't. Hopefully this gives you a bit of a good idea of what's possible within campaigns. But the next thing we need to do, or at least take into consideration, is how we manage tasks associated with a particular campaign. So it's all well and good coming up with this campaign idea, but unfortunately there are tasks that need to be done for a campaign in order for it to be delivered. Now, the way we would manage this is actually using a separate board. Now, there's an argument to say, some people would argue, that using sub-items is an easier way of doing this. I don't think so. So I'm going to show you my recommendation, and then I might or might not touch on the alternative solution. It often just depends on the complexity of a campaign and the tasks associated with the campaign, but I think my route is a safer bet. So what we want to do is go ahead and press the plus button, top left-hand corner, and we want to go ahead and create a new board. And this is going to be our, let's just call it campaign tasks. Okay. Privacy options entirely up to you. And then I'm just going to give the name of the terminology as tasks and press create board. Cool. So now our tasks have loaded. You can see we are starting from scratch all over again. This is going to be a little bit easier to run through. So our groupings for our task is, let's say, to do, doing, and then done. Really, really simple. To do tasks, doing tasks, and then we've got plus button again, goes for the green, and then done tasks. Okay. So again, status options just need to reflect that. So we add those. We've got done, we've got new or to do, and then we've got doing is going to be our yellow. And then you could add another column if you wanted to, that's like I'm stuck with this task or escalated or something like that. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to bother. To do, doing, done, really simple. And then we'll make that dark gray. And then again, just hide the column summary on here. Oh, well, you don't have to, but I prefer to. And then just automate. Again, just go to manage, create automations, and then you'll be super quick at doing this now. When status changes to do, move item to group to do, create automation. Create automation again when status changes to doing, move item to group doing, and then create automation. And then finally, when status changes to done, move item to group done, and then hit create automation. Awesome. So that was quite simple and straightforward. Now, the other thing that we probably want to do is we do a date created and then a date completed. So again, we've already been through this once, so hopefully this will be quite straightforward. Date completed, and then we do a formula column, add a formula, and then we just go to assistant and give me the difference between date created and date completed. Hit enter. That should work everything out. Let's just make sure. Yeah, insert, set formula. I just call this TTC. Now, the reason we're doing this on a task level is so we know the amount of time it takes to complete a task. And then if you want to get really nitty gritty with it, the amount of time it takes to complete a task by employee. Yeah, so you can catch people out if you want to. Not that I'm suggesting you should, but you can if you want to. We go hide column summary, and then, well, we want to restrict column editing on these three. And then hide the column summary on this one. And then we're just going to go to automate, add a new automation for date created. So item created set date. There we go, in date created, create automation. And then we just need to update our status equals to done as being set date to today. So set date completed to today. Cool. So there we go. So now we've got a place to manage tasks. It's pretty easy to do. So we've got all of our different status options. We can assign someone to a particular task. Let's say I assign it to myself. A few additional things that you might look to add here is, let's say we would add a label, which is the same as a status, by the way. And this would be like task type. So let's say you've got different task types. So I'm going to say post, or it could be social media. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know, media buying. Yeah, this is a good example. So media buying, content creation, or creative. I'm just going to put creative to give you an example, right? So you've got a few different options here. So these are just like, how do I delineate between the different types of tasks that I need to do for a campaign? You would do in either a label or a status column here. I'll just hide the column summary, and then we'd add another long text column, which is just task description. Oh, Monday didn't like that. Again, just hit refresh if you run into issues. And then we go task description. Oh, task description. There we go, and hit enter. So now we've got doing, done, task type, task description. And then the really important thing to note on here is now we need to connect our tasks to the actual campaigns. So what we want to do is go ahead and press a plus button, and this is a new column we've not touched on yet, and this is called a connect boards column. So we're going to connect every single task associated with a campaign via a connect boards column. So we click into this, and then we want to hit select boards, and then we want to go ahead and select our campaign, which is the board, the campaigns board. And then we want to go ahead and make sure we press create a two-way connection, and then hit connect boards. So now we've got a campaign associated with every single task, and I'm just going to reposition that here. Okay, so now if I click into this, I'll be able to see all of my items on the campaigns board, or all of the different campaigns, and I can associate a task with a campaign. So I can click in campaign number 1 and campaign number 1. So these 3 tasks are all for campaign number 1. So I'm going to change this to doing, I'm going to change this to done, and I'm going to change this to doing. So now I've got one task for campaign number 1, or actually what I'll do is put that in to do, just to give you a bit of variety, and I'll show you why in a moment. Let's say these task types, media buying, this is content creation, and then this is creative, I don't know, and then we've got different descriptions. So now I can see all of the tasks associated with this particular campaign. I can then go to my campaigns board, and because we press create two-way connection, we've got all of the tasks for that particular campaign pulling through on here. I can click into them, I'll be able to see them all, so I can see we've got all of these different tasks. But the more exciting part about all of this is, well, it depends what you should define as exciting, right? Useful, slightly better word, is we can mirror over data from the campaign tasks onto our campaign board. So if I go add column to the right and add a mirror column, I can then mirror over the status from all of these tasks onto my board here. So I can see task status, hit enter. So now is if I reposition this here, so let's say I just put this here, I'll just move this as well for simplicity's sake. Just hide the column summary on that. There we go. So now I can see the task status for all of my different tasks associated with this particular campaign. So if I've got, where's my campaign number 2, I'll just put that in upcoming, and then we go back to our campaign tasks, and we will assign both this one and this one to campaign number 2 and change the status of both of these to done because it's an upcoming campaign. This will then reflect accordingly. So now I can see there's 2 tasks, both of them have been completed, and we are ready to go for that campaign, and we're managing all of our tasks here. So this is way easier to do than trying to do any alternative solution that anyone else would suggest, in my opinion anyway. And you notice here that we've got this one board with multiple tasks for multiple different campaigns, right? So we can easily filter using the filter functionality up the top here and just say, show me where the task is for campaign number 1. And then it will show me all my tasks for campaign number 1. And then I can close this down. I can switch this across. So let's say I want to see my task for campaign number 2. It will show me that very, very easily. The other thing that might be worth doing is you can add a due date. So if I go to date, we'll add a new date column here. Or you can add a timeline column if it's going to span over an extended period of time. But let's just keep a date column for simplicity's sake for the time being. And we'll just put this as due date. And then we can hide the column summary on here. What I would recommend doing is press the three dotted button, clicking in and setting this particular date as a deadline date. So this means that this is a deadline for this particular item. So it chooses a status column, and then the other thing it chooses is the person column. Press connect, and now what you can see is 31st. It gives you this kind of emoji thing, I guess, if I assign it to myself, and then if I change the status to done, it then puts a line through it, automatically updates. We've also got some functions where you go three dotted button and then you can set due date reminders based on this due date column if you want to, again getting a little bit more complex. But that is not all. So we've got campaigns, we then have campaign tasks, but often in order to complete a task, there are also other tasks that are associated, or like baby steps for that parent task. And then the parent task obviously has a campaign. So it depends how granular, how you want to chop it and change it. But this is where we would utilize sub items. So if you press or hover over any item and you've got this very faint gray arrow just on the left hand side of the name here, you can go ahead and add new sub items. So I'm going to call this example sub item. And then these are tasks that need to be done for this particular task, right? So it's just the forever ongoing loop of tasks. And the same principle applies. You can have an owner, you have the status. So again, I would just do exactly the same. So I do to do, I would do doing, and then probably done. Yeah, pretty much. And then I'll delete this one. You've got a date. I would set this as due date. Again, just clicking into this three dotted button here, set it as a deadline, associate it with the owner as well. Connect the columns. You've got also a long text column if you want to, and this could be task description. Hit enter, and then what you can also do is date created, date completed, and a time to complete as well. I'm not going to bore you with all of that again, but obviously that would be when status of a sub item changes to date completed or completed, then set date completed to today. But what you can do, which is really helpful, is on sub item number 2, let's just add a few here, and then we'll add another one, sub item number 3. We've got obviously layers to this. We've got campaign, which is the high level, medium level is our tasks, and then our low level is the sub items. Now on here, what I can do is, let's say this is doing, this is doing, this is done. I can then show the summary on the parent item for the particular status. So I can then show sub item status on here as well. So obviously this particular task is not done, right? It's doing, because there are still outstanding items for this particular task on the sub item level. So if I close that down, I can see that, okay, this task is doing, and 1 of 3 of those tasks are done. 2 of those are in the doing stage. I can then change this to do, and I can see how that reflects automatically. But the even better thing is I can then roll that information up to the campaign level as well. So if we go to our tasks, and then what we want to do is add another mirror column, and we're going to mirror the sub item status all the way up to our campaign level. Go to task, connect obviously to tasks, and then I've got sub item status as well. So if I go in sub item status, so I've got task status, sub item status. I can reposition this if Monday's going to let me, which doesn't seem like it's going to. There. Oh no. Oh dear. Oh no. Just hit refresh again. 3 times in this video. 3 times. I hope you're listening, Monday. This is shocking. I can't move this for whatever reason. Maybe make it a bit bigger. There we go. So now I can see the task status and then the sub item status for this particular campaign. And then this rolls all of them up. So if I go to add some sub items for the same campaign, AA, and then we'll change this to done. You can see how this now also rolls up. So there's more sub items that need to be done. There's 1 that's doing, and then there's 2 that's being completed, right? So this is really helpful from a high level to just see exactly what's going on across your tasks and your sub items. And then this is a lot easier to manage on your campaign task level to see, right, this is all my tasks that need to be done. This is the status of all of these sub items. This is exactly what's going on. So some additional information, same stuff applies. You can have a Kanban view, and there's some more nuanced things you can do with effort, resource, capacity, and then assigning of people. Not going to cover that in this video, as I don't think it's necessary, but I think the helpful thing here is the filters. You can also group by as well. So if you want to group by different task type, for example, you can. So hit group by, and then let's go task type, and then it will group by the media buying tasks, the content creation tasks, and then the creative tasks. And then what you can also do is then filter. So you can filter this and say, and then show me all of the tasks, group by the task type for let's say campaign number 1, right? And then we could also add an additional filter and parenthesis and say, and only where status is or is not, let's say done, for example. So now it's going to show me my different group tasks by campaign that are not done yet. And then, you know, this stuff is really, really helpful. It's a lot easier to manage. Now, the alternative option, like I mentioned earlier before we went down this whole task board route, was to just manage the tasks that need to be done on a campaign level using sub items. So you wouldn't need this board, the campaign tasks board, and then you would just have a drop down arrow here, and then same principle applies with the campaign task. You would just manage it on the sub item level. Now, the really important thing to note here is you've only got high level, low level, not high, medium level, low level. So that means that if there's a task, let's say example task number 1, hit enter, you can't then have a sub item for this. So you can't, there are no more layers to go, right? And quite often a task will have multiple additional tasks for that task to be completed. So that would mean you'd end up having to be super, super granular with everything that needs to be done. I don't think it's an optimal way to manage things compared to the alternative solution available, but you're more than welcome to test both. I think a more reasonable approach for using this, or a decent reason why you would look to use this, is if you haven't got many tasks to complete or get a campaign active. But I rarely see a world in which that is the case. But of course, it's entirely up to you. I can only give you my recommendation on what's best. So now we've got campaigns and campaign tasks. The next thing that we ultimately want to do is manage the performance of our campaigns. Now, we've got an easy way of doing this and a more complicated way of doing this, and it depends on how you want to manage it. Really, it's entirely up to you. Option number 1 is pretty obvious, right? We just add some new columns on here. So we go numbers, and we add a new column, and let's say it gives us our total spend, so campaign spend, hit enter, and then let's say we did end up spending 500, and then the goal number, so the actual number, so we do numbers and then just hit actual number, hit enter, and then the actual number was, let's say, 40. So we didn't perform as well as we were hoping to for this particular campaign compared to the goal, which is obviously the goal number. And then we got campaign expected revenue. We can go ahead and we can add a numbers column here. And then we can go ahead and drag and drop that across. And then campaign act revenue. Hit enter. 3-dotted button on this one. And just go to settings, customize, and then this is going to be obviously in the pound because we're working currency here. High column summary. I'm going to press don't suggest again, the frustrating things. And then in actual fact, the actual number was 40, but the expected revenue was 1100, right? And then we could just write a formula column and just compare our campaign expected revenue to our actual revenue and whether we were up or down. So let's just do that. We just press plus formula, and then we go ahead and drag this across. And then we go, keep it simple. AI assistant, give me the difference between campaign exp.revenue and campaign actual or act revenue. Hit enter. There we go. So then that's going to populate. We just insert that, and then that's going to give me the difference. So apparently, well, actually, we need to do it the other way around, I suppose. So it'd be, I'm just going to command X this, command V, and then put the minus here because it is by definition the other way around, probably. Yeah. So we're actually plus on this. So P/L for revenue, P/L, I don't know, revenue, you can name it whatever you like. I'm kind of guessing here. Now for a formula column that's got a financial unit associated, just click into the bottom here and then select the financial unit and then click into this 3-dotted button and hide the column summary. So we've got our goal and our actual number, or actual number, campaign budget versus campaign spend, campaign expected revenue versus campaign actual revenue, and then we got P&L on the revenue, or P&L versus, I don't know, whatever. I've kind of just made it up now. And then you've got campaign expected return on investment. And then you could have you could just copy this or create a very similar formula column. So we'll do that. That would be giving you the actual campaign ROI. So we go ahead, add a formula, and we will drag and drop this across. And I'm going to have to check what I wrote in here. So we've got campaign act.roi, hit enter. And then what do we say? If campaign budget is above 0, campaign expected revenue. So I'm just going to copy this. No. Do I want to copy this? Probably not. What did we say? We said, I have the goal number that give me the ROI. We'll work it out. So we're clicking, go to AI Assistant. And what do we want? Give me the actual ROI based on the campaign act.revenue and the campaign spend. Yeah, that should do it, right? I think so. Anyway, insert formula, if campaign above campaign at revenue. Yeah, I think that's it. 2.2. Awesome. So we spent 500. We generated 1100 in revenue. That gives us a ROI of 2.2. Happy days. And I'm pretty sure if I change this to 1,000, that would give me 2. Yeah. Maybe I got the other one wrong. I'm not sure. Probably did. I mean, that's giving me a 1 here. And that's giving me a 2. So I must have got something wrong. I think, hang on, let me fix this, right? Give me the ROI based on the campaign budget and the campaign exp dot revenue. Hit enter. Cool. Hopefully that will work. Fix this. It's the same. What have I done? What have I got wrong? Campaign budget, campaign expected revenue. That's giving me an ROI of 1. And then I've got the campaign spend here. And then the campaign actual revenue. That's giving me an ROI of 2.2. I must have got something wrong here. Oh, well, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'll let you work it out. But you get the idea, right? So that's the simple way. Now, you can report on that data, and that's absolutely fine. The alternative and more complex route that you can take, and I'm going to walk you through in this video, is to manage this in a separate board and then have that roll up to the campaign. Now, the reason you might want to do this is because you might want to manage the performance by channel for a particular campaign, okay? So if you want to see how Facebook performed against YouTube, against Instagram, then you can do, and you can be a lot more granular in your reporting than if you just wanted to stick everything here, because this is obviously consolidating, especially if you've got like this, for example, all of these different channels. This is just consolidating all of the information into one place. You've got no granularity and no means of reporting whether YouTube outperformed Facebook. So if we did want to have the more complicated route, or take the more complex route, which gives us more granular reporting, obviously, yin and yang, right? Then we would press the plus button in the top left hand corner and create a new board. Now this board is going to be called, let's say, campaign performance. And then again, privacy options. And then I'm just going to call this performance. Sure. No, does that make sense? I'm gone at this point. I'm sure it could make sense in an alternative universe. I hit create board, and again, we're starting from scratch here. Now, I would actually argue, to be fair, that we don't need any groups, nor do we really need any status options for managing the process. So I would just call this, let's just call this submissions, right? Or performance submissions. Now, the frequency at which you choose to do this is entirely up to you. If you want to do it at the end of the campaign, that's absolutely fine. If you want to do it on a daily basis, a monthly basis, a weekly, whatever, quarterly, is absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you. But what we would have, we don't need a files column. I'm going to get rid of this status column because it's going to annoy me. And then we'd have, we don't need a person column either. So we're absolutely gutting this board. Just delete the person column. Then we'd have submission date, sub, mission date, hit enter. And then what we want to do is just some basic information that we would want to track for granularity purposes. So we would have probably channel, and then go back to campaign performance. But the difference being is we're going to have it as a status column, okay? So you can only have per submission 1 channel. You don't want to be able to have multiple. Otherwise, we're just creating the exact same problem that we have on the campaigns level, where we can't get granular by the channel that we're using. So we would have, obviously, I'll just add this as YouTube as it's red. And then we would have, let's say, what else we got? Facebook, Instagram. I can't remember what else we had, but I'll just leave it as that. I know we had like Reddit. I might have added Pinterest. You get the idea, right? So then we would hide the column summary. And then again, depends how granular you want to go. But what we would do is conversions. So we'd have a numbers column. I think that's what we called it on the high level here. I think we had goal number. Let's just go with goal number. So we would have goal number or actual number. Yeah, actual number. Yeah, enter. So this is whatever the goal was. And then, so let's say it's 50. And then the actual was 40 or 4 for this particular channel. So let's say it's Facebook. And then this one was for Instagram. And then this one was for YouTube. And then we would hide the column summary. And then what we can also do is add another numbers column and track our spend as well. So spend, this is spend, but obviously per channel. So this isn't budget across per one. This is just spend on a channel by channel basis for a particular campaign. So we've got spend, we've got actual number. I'm just trying to think what else we need to add here. So we've got campaign spend, actual number, campaign revenue. So if we can, actual number, and then we would have another numbers column, and then revenue by channel, I suppose, revenue. And then again, I'm just going to 3-dotted button, settings, customize this, hit that in the pound unit or whatever currency that you're dealing with, hide the column summary. So let's say it was 1,000 revenue. We spent £50 on this particular channel. Let me just check there's nothing else that I need to factor in. You probably could look at campaign or let's say channel return on investment. So we'll add that as a formula column as well. We'll go formula and then give me ROI based on spend and revenue. Let's see if this works. Interesting if it does. If spend is above 0, revenue minus spend divided by spend, set formula. So that's a 19. So let's say if we do 500. 1. Okay, so I don't know. I give up at this point. Is that, yeah, that is a return. I don't know. I'm getting something wrong somewhere. But again, you can use ChatGPT for this. I just want to give you ideas as to what's possible. So this gives you a 1 ROI for this particular channel based on this spend. This is the actual numbers, and then obviously this is the revenue as well. Now, what we then want to do is we want to create a connection between our campaign performance board and our campaigns board. So we go ahead and press the plus button and we want to search connect. And then we connect this board to our campaigns board. So we select the campaigns board and then make sure we press create two-way connection, hit connect boards. And then this is obviously going to be for a particular campaign, right? So I'm going to put this all the way across over here. Now, like I said, multiple submissions for one campaign, the delineation is the channel. The other delineation that you might have is paid versus organic. Might be worth tracking as well, entirely up to you, but I guess spend and stuff like that is more focused on the paid side of things, but I suppose it's probably worth tracking organic as well. So yeah, you would actually have, that's a very good point that I have just made there, is you would have on here again, just a status. So what did I call it on the campaign level? I called it media type. And then go to status media type here. And then we would go paid. I can't remember what the colors were. Paid, organic, and then both. And then I'll just delete this green here and then reposition this. So now it's either paid or organic. Or no, we wouldn't want both. Thinking about this logically, sorry, I'm really having to think about this as I do it. You wouldn't want both. The reason being is you want to know, right, this has come from paid, this has come from organic, because you might have, example 4, you might have, this is for the same campaign, submission date is today, and then this was, so we got organic YouTube and now we've got paid YouTube. Our spend for organic was 0, or we might have spent like £100 affiliates as an example. Our actual was 2, and then our revenue was 500. Whereas on here, this is paid, we spent 5,000, right? Our actual numbers were 50, and then our revenue was 12,000 as an example, right? So hopefully that's kind of making sense on why you would just have one or the other. And then what you do is you connect all of these to your campaign. So I'm going to connect this to campaign number 1, connect this to campaign number 1, connect this to campaign number 1, and connect this to campaign number 1. I could have done them all at the same time. You could just press Command A or Control A if you're on Windows and then mass select and update. But this is saying that now we've got data independent by channel and media type for our campaign, so it's a lot easier to track. If you want to again filter by a particular campaign or a particular channel or a particular media type, then you can do. And this information is readily available on here. We have the connection with the campaign, which means now that if I go across, we've got the campaign performance. And as opposed to just having the standardized columns that we already have on here, so we've got expected, where are we, campaign spend, actual number, campaign actual revenue, and then P&L, and then campaign actual return on investment. What we're going to do is we're going to mirror over the data from the campaign performance board onto the campaigns board, and we would do so by pressing the three dotted button, go to add column to the right, and then mirror. And now we're mirroring as a roll up all of the information from the campaign performance. So if we look at, this is our total spend, so campaign spend, based on all of the different submissions associated with this campaign. So we can then delete this one if we're getting rid of the old way, which we are. So we've got campaign spend. We've got actual number, which is the actual number of conversions, just in case anyone was getting confused, because I definitely was. So we've got actual number, clicking campaign performance, click down, and then we've got actual number, which is actual number here, and then we can delete the old one because we don't need it anymore, so press delete. There we go. And then we've got campaign revenue. So again, add three dotted button, add column to the right. Here's a mirror column, add column, and yep, connect, and then campaign performance. And then what we want to do is our revenue, so campaign revenue, there we go. And then we got then we can go ahead and delete the campaign actual revenue. Again, we don't need that information now because it's mirroring through from the campaign performance. And then we got P&L revenue. That's the difference between the campaign expected revenue and the campaign actual revenue. I'm just going to delete this. I don't think it was that useful anyway. And then the campaign actual return on investment. Obviously, we've had some issues with doing that maths today, so I'm going to leave it as just, or I might just delete it. But if you wanted to, you can work it out. We've kind of got it on the campaign performance. I think actually, if you press three dotted button and then mirror it across from the campaign performance board, let's see how the data comes across. Okay, so go campaign performance and then go ROI. So campaign ROI. I don't know if this is giving me a total or an average or what it's giving me. I don't even, do I want an average? I think I want an average across all of the submissions. Yeah, that makes the most sense for the campaign performance. So now we're mirroring this data across, but because we've got the granularity of the channel and the media type, we can now see which of our channels and or media types perform better versus didn't perform as well, what the average return on investment is by channel, what the average return on investment is by media type. And we've got so much more data that we can get stuck into to assess how our campaigns are performing, and also more importantly, how our different sources are performing for our different campaigns. Okay, and like I said, you can create multiple different submissions for the same channel, for the same media type over an extended time horizon. So some people might choose to just track this data at the end, like I said, I think I mentioned this earlier, at the end of a campaign, but other people might do it on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. So it's entirely up to you. But you can see why this is so useful, because now we can create fancy looking reports on how our campaign performance did by media type, by channel. We can get return on investment on all of that. And we can see where we should be spending more money as a business, and actually see where we maybe shouldn't be spending as much money, or find a way in which we can go ahead and improve that particular channel because it's not working as well for us as it either should be or as we would like. So guess what? We're going to go ahead and create some reports. Yeah, the video, unfortunately for you, is not over yet. So press the plus button, top left-hand corner here, and we go to the dashboard. Now, how extensive you want these reports to be is entirely up to you, but I'm just going to call this campaign reporting. I'm going to leave it as main, of course. And then what we want to do is it's asked us with this pop-up menu which boards we would like to pull into our dashboard. This is essentially saying which data sources would you like data to be accessible from that we can then create widgets and reports on. So we definitely want campaign performance, probably campaigns, and also campaign tasks, because you can report on all of this based on the way we've set it up, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and press done. And then I'm only going to create in this video a few different reports that I think would be useful. But there's so many reports that you can make, like an unlimited amount of reports that could be created. Otherwise this video will literally be like 5 hours in length. And I don't think anyone's going to watch that. So if we go ahead and press add widget, top left-hand corner, we're going to go ahead and add a numbers column first. And this is going to be the average time to get a project, get a campaign live. I mean, you can slightly reword that if you want to, but average time to get a campaign live. We discussed this right at the start of the video and why it's helpful. So if we go ahead and press the three dotted button, go to settings, and then we need to firstly go to our board. So this is just where we're selecting and unselecting, in this instance, the sources that we need to pull from to get this report to work. So I don't need campaign performance and I don't need campaign tasks. So I just need campaigns. And then numbers, I want to go to columns one by one. And then I want TTA, which was time to active. And then what I want to do is go to customize. I want an average. I might want a unit and go right and just go days. And then probably on a manual, I would go manual decimal places, and then I don't want any decimals here. So on average, from new, it takes 2 days to get a campaign live, okay, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Obviously, that's not realistic, but this is set up, so you kind of get the idea. What else would we want? Let's say we want time to complete a campaign. So we go add widget again, numbers, same principle applies. We go average, avg, g.time to complete a campaign. Hit enter. So now we've got average time to complete a campaign. We want to go to three dotted button, go to settings, and then boards again. We just want to unselect tasks and performance. We don't need either of these. And then columns, we want to go one by one, and then it's going to be TTC, so time to complete in this instance. Go to customize, right hand side, the unit is going to be days. And then we want the average manual, and then we can close this. But one really important thing to note on here is our grouping. So we only want to pull the data from the group completed. So to untick all of the other options available to us. And now we can see it takes 2 days to get a campaign live, and then, or I think the terminology we use, live or active, I can't remember. And then the average time to complete a campaign is actually 4 days. Again, not realistic, but data that I think would be useful if you're starting a new campaign, you need to prepare for a particular season, let's say December, and this is the amount of days you need to get it ready. So I'm going to now get into some campaign performance reports that I think are going to be useful. I'm not going to touch on any other reports, as again, there's so much to take into consideration here. Are so many different reports you could run. Again, with tasks, that's basic project management. You could do resource management, effort and capacity, campaigns, number of campaigns created on a monthly basis, campaigns by type, campaigns by media source or media channel. You could then look at the difference between campaign budgeted versus campaign actuals. But I just want to look at performance because I think performance is quite cool. So if we press add widget, and I'm just going to create a few charts here. So the first chart is I want to see our return on investment by our different channels. So I go to the three dotted button, and then what we want to do is go to boards, and we want to unselect both tasks and campaigns because we just want the performance. And then we want to go to chart type. And then we only need, I think, just a standard bar graph. Our x-axis in this instance is going to be our channel. And then our y-axis is going to be our one by one. If we go one by one, what we can do is we can track by return on investment. So now I can see our return on investment by channel, which is incredible, right? So I go ROI by channel. Hit enter. So now I can see Instagram 0 ROI. We've got Facebook is a 1, and YouTube, as per usual, absolutely smashing it with a 5.4 ROI. We could also do the same thing for revenue as well. So if I literally just duplicate this, all of the other settings are going to remain exactly the same. Go to the three dotted button, go to settings, and then on our y-axis, we're just going to change the y from ROI to revenue. So now I can see YouTube's generated us 12,500, Facebook 1,000, Instagram 0. Now we can take this a step further as well. So if we wanted to see this by, ROI by, so this is revenue by channel, just make sure I don't confuse myself. What we could do is ROI by channel per month. So if we press the three dotted button, press duplicate here again, just going to reposition this over to the left as my big head is in the right hand corner, and then go to settings, and then chart type is actually going to be a stack bar graph instead. So it's not a standard bar graph because we're stacking it by the channel. The y-axis is obviously the ROI. The x-axis is the date submitted or the date created. So we go to stack bar, and then our x-axis is date submitted, submission date, which obviously needs to be populated. I'm going to go back in a moment and we'll populate that. And then stack by is going to be one by one, and it's going to be the channel. So we can see YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And then our y-axis is going to be our ROI. One thing to note on here, you can expand the stack as well. So you can see that if we expanded the stack, it separates. Be mindful though that if you expand the stack and you've got loads and loads and loads of months, loads of different channels, this report could get quite polluted. But we've got ROI by channel per month. Hit enter. There's nothing else we really need to customize here. You can add, edit the colors of things. We can change the benchmark lines as well. So if you have a benchmark return on investment, you can add that. So let's say our benchmark is 3. We don't want anything less than a 3, and just put minimum. And then that can be our red. And then we could add another benchmark, which is 5. Of course, YouTube's still beating it. Change this to green and just put goal. And then boards we have available to us, groups, blah, blah, blah. Awesome. So if I now go to our campaign performance, and you can see here, these have actually all got dates, so that's all good. And then we go back to our campaign reporting, you can see our ROI by channel. We can also do revenue by channel. So in order to do that, again, we just duplicate this, 3-dotted button, go to settings, and then as opposed to our y-axis being the ROI, the y-axis in this instance is going to be just revenue. And then we can go ahead and we would need to make sure that we change the benchmark lines. So we say, like, let's say minimum's 10,000 and then our goal is 20,000 per channel per month, and you can see where we are in comparison to those. Now another one, just a final one that I want to add here, is our charts. So we go ahead, add another chart, and then let's do ROI by ROI by media. Was it media? Is that what we called it? If I go to campaign performance, it's media type. Yeah, ROI by media type. 3-dotted button again. 3-dotted button, settings, chart type is going to be stacked. Let's do ROI by media type per month. Do stacked. Stacked's more complicated, so you learn more. So stacked, x-axis is going to be, just need to go to our boards and unselect campaigns and unselect campaign tasks. We just want campaign performance feeding in. And then our x-axis is going to be the submission date. Our stack by, in this instance, is going to be our media type. As you can see, organic, empty, paid. I'll just go ahead and we will adjust this. We'll just change this to paid as well. Click in, and then we can expand the stack if we want to. And then our y-axis in this instance is not going to be count items. It's going to be return on investment. And that's really interesting. You can see that we've got 4 ROI for our organic and a 2.4 ROI for our paid. And then we can customize this again, edit the colors if you want to. You can add some more benchmark lines, but if I now close this down, we can see ROI by media type per month, which is awesome. Again, this can go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But hopefully this is pointing you in the right direction, giving you a bit of insight into what's possible with campaign or marketing management within Monday.com. I will preface all of this by saying there's a lot of nuance to this. So how your business operates, how your marketing channels operate. We've worked with really large organizations where they have like a marketing department, which is the head of marketing. And within that, they have other departments which manage different channels. So one might manage paid, one might manage organic, one might manage influencers, and they're all different departments. And then they all have to work together. That's a lot more complicated than this. But if you're a small to medium sized organization managing marketing, this is a perfect way of doing it, or at least gives you the skeleton of how it could potentially work for your organization. If you'd like us to help you with any of this, check out the links below. We would love to help. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and goodbye.